Alright guys, what is up? Hope you're having a fantastic day and a great start to your December. It's December already. That's pretty crazy. But before we get into this video, how about we make some coffee? This video has taken forever to film. This has been crazy. You know, initially I filmed it by myself and I didn't like it. I didn't like the energy I had that day. I don't know, there was something about it. So then I had my friend Boatner come over, and Boatner has a very unique perspective. He went to boarding school and he's at college right now. Just went through his freshman year at Washington University in St. Louis. Big school, very nice school. And I knew that he would have a much more diverse perspective than I have. So I wanted to have him on the video, but then I messed up the lighting. It was all bad. Remember to count me up? Say no. I feel terrible, you know. The lighting was terrible. I can't deal with that. And so I'm back out here and I'm filming this video for the third time. It's great. I'm on the grind. You know, it's break, so I got plenty of time to film videos, make them look good. So that's what I'm out here doing, but I am going to touch on some of the things that Boatner said and some of the important things that he brought out, some of the important topics that he discussed. So the way I came up with this list was by writing out the things that I learned my first semester of college. And then I went to Instagram and asked everyone else what they learned their first semester of college. And I left it open to all ages. You didn't have to just be a freshman like me to answer. And so with this list, I was able to compare and contrast the things that I had learned to the things that they had learned and come out with a universal set of 7 guidelines that I think will help anyone out in life, in personal relations, in your freshman year. And it can also help out if you're not even in your freshman year, if you're out of college. These are just good guidelines that I think anyone should know. And so, yeah, let's get into the list. Before we get into tip number 1, how'd you like that B-roll? I had fun making that. That was pretty interesting. And you know, that kind of actually does tie into tip number 1, which is don't drink caffeine past 12 in the afternoon. And which is also the reason why this isn't even the same cup as I made in the video. Like, this is literally just a cup of tea. It kind of looked cool whenever I sat down though, so that's all I cared about. Anyways, don't drink caffeine past 12 in the afternoon, because if you drink caffeine past 12 in the afternoon, it stays in your system much longer than you think. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours, which means that after 5 to 7 hours, half that caffeine is still going to be in your system, and it is going to affect your sleep. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want to get into a cycle of constantly not getting good quality sleep. So in order to fix that, you can stop drinking caffeine past noon. In college, it's very difficult because sometimes you're pulling all-nighters and you're drinking caffeine. You can drink caffeine in the afternoons every now and then, but don't make it a habit, because if you make it a habit, it's not going to be good for you. So that's my tip number 1. So now on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is talk to everyone you see and try to remember everyone's name. By remembering everybody's name that you talk to, you will immediately create a connection with them, and psychologically, it really helps to form a friendship. If I remember my friend Boatner, for example, who was here earlier, if I remember his name and he remembers mine, and we've never met before, we're all automatically going to have this connection, and it's going to help to form a friendship much faster than if you don't remember somebody's name immediately. It's just like this weird thing in psychology, you know? I'm not a psych major, but talking about psychology. Also, try to talk to as many people as possible. College is very stressful and breeds a lot of anxiety. Therefore, it's important to talk to as many people as you possibly can in order to form friendships. So if you start struggling with anxiety or stress or anything like that, you can talk to your friends about it, because they're probably going through the exact same thing. It really helps mentally just kind of get through the semester or the year or whatever is stressful about college and focus more on the fun stuff. Tip number 3 is to be spontaneous. And what I mean by this, I mean go out with your friends at 3 a.m. and go to Waffle House. Waffle House is awesome. I had friends this semester that drove to New Orleans just because they could drive to New Orleans. I had friends that just drove to Texas. They just decided, hey, we're just going to drive to Texas tonight. And they got to the border and they turned around. Like, they form these memories that you're not going to be able to form in any other place, because whenever you get out into the real world, you aren't going to have this ease of access to spontaneity. And I like to use this term, ease of access to spontaneity, because a lot of the times we like to think that we're always going to have this opportunity to be spontaneous, but in reality, we only have these years that we're in college with our friends and we're like living together with these people, and they don't have jobs or anything. The only thing they're focusing on is being a student. this is like the only time we're gonna have this opportunity to be spontaneous, which is really tempting, honestly, to be spontaneous all the time. But this brings me into tip number 4. Tip number 4 is to maintain perspective. And what I mean by this is don't make spontaneity a habit. Whenever you have spontaneous habits, it's going to end up getting in the way of your priorities. And if your priorities are skewed, then you're all of a sudden not going to be a good student. Or if you're an athlete, you're not going to be a good athlete because your priorities are focused on more spontaneous actions, such as going Waffle House at 3 a.m., which could be a detriment to your sleep and therefore affect your grades and affect your athletic performance. It's important to keep in line what your priorities are. And whenever I talked to Boatner earlier, I was talking to him about perspective. And with perspective comes the idea of looking at everybody's viewpoints. Boatner came from a very different college than I did, and therefore was able to assess a bunch of different viewpoints and to respect those viewpoints that other people have, but also learn and build upon the views that he has. It made his values more valuable. Let's go to tip number 5. Tip number 5 is to take time for yourself. Take time to relax. Take a step back from your phone. Take time to breathe. Listen to music. Do something other than hanging out with friends or focusing on school all the time, because your mental well-being is going to be like smashed. If you sit there and you are constantly focused on school and constantly hanging out with friends and your mind is just constantly being stimulated by your phone, you're going to get in this rut where your mind is pretty much just fried, and you don't want to get into that rut. It is very bad if you do that first semester. And so it's really important to take time to relax. Maybe exercise or read a book or, buy a notebook. That's a bonus tip I'm going to give you. Go buy a notebook, and whenever you buy a notebook, you can draw in it, you can write ideas, or you can write songs, or you can just do anything creative in the notebook to get you out of looking at your phone all the time and constantly stimulating your mind, because overstimulation of your mind is not good. Yeah, buy a notebook. Step number 6 is to be patient. And we live in a world of instant gratification where patience is hard. We are constantly on social media and we're waiting for likes, or we're waiting for something, or we're constantly waiting. And it's very good if you can get yourself to live in the moment. And that's one of the main things that causes stress and anxiety, is constantly looking forward to the future and stressing about those things. And it creates worry, and it's just not good. It's really important to try to live in the moment and try to just focus on what's happening around you right now. Take in the beauty of the world. Oftentimes, we just don't take the time to take a step back and relax, which is like what I was talking about in step 5. But it's important to just be patient and wait. And good things come with patience. So that's my tip number 6. Tip number 7 is don't procrastinate. And it's definitely something we all struggle with. I think every human being, I think there was one TED Talk that talked about how every person struggles with procrastination to some extent. Some people are really good at not procrastinating, but then they still procrastinate to some extent. It's crazy. But anyways, what Boatner was talking about earlier, whenever I was talking to him, he was talking about how it's important to be intentional with your time. And by being intentional with your time, you can plan out your day better, and you can just kind of focus on the way that you want to spend your day instead of living through your day without a plan. And so it's really important to have this idea of how you want your day to go, and when you're going to turn in your assignments, when you're going to do your schoolwork and everything, in order to not get behind. And if you procrastinate, it is not going to be good for you, because it's going to create stress. It's not going to be your best work, and your professors are probably going to not like you very much, because you're always that guy that turns in stuff right at the last minute or late. Sometimes you don't even get it turned in all the way. So it's important not to procrastinate, and that's what I've learned from a lot of people. And it's something that's reiterated a lot, but oftentimes not followed. So that's all 7 of the tips I have. Thanks for watching. Glad you guys could be here. Remember, love what you live what you love. I'll see you guys next time.